All right, I'm picking up at the bottom of page 174. Violet found Myrtle hiding in a recessed doorway beside the drugstore, under a sign advertising Underwood Typewriters, the machine you will eventually buy. Myrtle was happy to see her, and they sat down on the stoop and exchanged news. Myrtle was jealous of Violet's job as a spy. "Because it's important," Myrtle said. "I'm not doing anything important. I'm just waiting for them to vote." She nodded upward at Capitol Hill. "You're keeping an eye on Mr. Martin," Violet pointed out. "That's important. He needs someone to keep an eye on him." "He sure does," Myrtle agreed. "It's bad enough he has a scar on his face and 3 fingers missing. He doesn't need to go telling people how to change the way they do things all the time. It makes them remember him." Violet thought Mr. Martin probably did need to go telling people to change the way they did things, or he wouldn't be Mr. Martin. "He's in there making a scene right now," she said. Myrtle looked apprehensive. "Maybe we should go in and stop him." Violet shook her head. "I think that would just make it more of a scene." Myrtle nodded, seeing the sense in this. "I don't know what's going to happen to him after all this is over. He's no good at hiding." At the thought of "after this is all over," they both lapsed into silence. Violet was thinking about Chloe, who had yet to say that Violet could come and live with her. Violet didn't want to go home. She didn't miss it at all. All right, she missed her own room, and her bed with the green chenille spread, and her shelf full of Oz books. But she didn't miss the empty, echoing loneliness of a house with no one in it but Stephen, who wasn't really there, and Father, who never talked except to issue edicts, and Mother, who had betrayed Violet. She supposed Myrtle was thinking about the Girls' Training Institute, and how she didn't want to go back there, and where would she go if she didn't. "When will it all be over?" said Myrtle. "No one knows," said Violet. "The Senate might vote on the amendment today, or they might not, which would mean they'd vote on it Monday, or maybe not. And then the House might vote on it Monday, but they have to wait for a committee to recommend it." She broke off, noting that Myrtle was laughing at her. "You sound like a politician or something," said Myrtle. Violet shrugged. "'Cause I've been listening to so much political talk lately." She thought of how sick she was of political talk. "I should come visit you and Mr. Martin where you're staying, and maybe we could go—" "No," said Myrtle. Violet looked away, stung. A colored man in overalls was sweeping the edge of the sidewalk, his broom making gritty swishing sounds as he swept clouds of dust into the gutter. "It's just not that an interesting place. You'd be bored," Myrtle said, sounding half apologetic. Before Violet could reply, the door to the drugstore burst open, and Mr. Martin stormed out. Violet could just imagine the eyes of everyone in the place, following him and his scar, and his missing fingers that the Palmer agents had such a good description of. Myrtle jumped to her feet and waved a hasty goodbye to Violet. Violet was sorry to see her go, but Mr. Martin clearly needed supervision. "He just refuses to understand," said Chloe, when Violet sat back down at the marble-top table. "I told him back in New York that nothing was more important than winning the vote. I don't know why he thinks I should have changed my mind by now." Violet decided this remark was not really addressed to her. "What's going to happen today?" she asked. "Are they meeting in the Capitol?" "The Senate will probably vote today," said Chloe, pulling the paper straw out of her strawberry phosphate and looking at it disconsolately. It was coming apart. "Really? On the Susan B. Anthony amendment?" Violet thought this was great news and couldn't understand why Chloe wasn't more excited. "It's only the Senate," said Chloe. "That's just half the legislature. There's still the House to worry about, and they are what we are worried about. We know we're going to win the Senate." All anybody on either side ever seemed to say was that they knew they were going to win, so Violet wasn't impressed by this. "I don't think Senator Candler is going to vote for the amendment. He despises women." Chloe smiled and stuck her limp straw back into her drink. No, I agree. Senator Candler will vote against it, but I still think we're going to win it. Then we'll have 35.5 states, and the antis will be more desperate than ever, and the battle will just get hotter. Violet was relieved to see her sister smile, and decided to bring up something that had been on her mind. Chloe, when we go back to New York, can I... Violet, I really can't think about that right now, said Chloe. She picked up the pamphlets. Do you want to chuck these in the trash barrel, or shall I? All right, make sure that you've annotated and take some pictures of your annotations to show me.